Dun, 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 dun. We are on live now. Dun, 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 dun. Robert,
Hello, welcome to the people, Facebook Live. Ericka, how the hell are you?
you know, other than dealing
No,
with
I don't know,
technical
or I wouldn't have
difficulties,
asked.
I would be fine if I wasn't dealing with technical issues this morning.
The two things, right? When women say fine
Mm,
or whatever, those are, I've learned when a
mm,
woman says fine, being the last of
mm-hmm.
the great sexist, right? When a woman says fine,
Yeah,
she's not. So,
definitely not.
right.
You
So,
know what else? For those of you on the podcast, I have this fabulous mug from Lock and Load in Miami. And you can't practice good trigger discipline with this mug because you really need to put your finger through the trigger point to hold the mug up. That's my real problem this morning,
um,
Robert.
maybe we all have such problems. So, folks, you're supposed to hold it like this, right? You're supposed to
Yeah,
actually make picture of
yeah,
a gun. But in any event,
yeah.
so look,
See,
let's jump right in. So
yeah.
under
Talk
the
to me.
heading of you can't make this stuff up. Now I live up in New Hampshire.
Oh, yep.
The Dartmouth basketball team, so Ivy League, the Dartmouth basketball team just voted to unionize.
Wait, I'm sorry.
So
I'm sorry.
they
An NBA basketball team is unionizing?
no, a college amateur sport
Oh, right. Yeah,
Ivy
that's what I
League
meant. NCAA.
basketball team is
Okay.
unionizing. They voted 13-2 to
Okay.
unionize, and it's SEIU, right? The Service Employees Union, which is the Dartmouth, you one of the, I think it's the 560 or whatever. Hang on, I can tell you. But here's the thing. So
Yeah.
I mean, so what do they want? Well, first of all, I mean, here's my real question. So since they're unionized, they voted to
Yeah.
unionize. Do
Yeah,
they
yeah,
now
yeah.
have to pay dues?
What is
Because
the
so
point of unionizing?
well, they clearly want better working conditions. I mean, I guess they want the gymnasium floor cleaned more often. Maybe they want different clothes. Maybe they want better working hours.
Is this so they can get paid? Because I mean, it is kind of baloney, in my opinion, that these college basketball, football players, they rake in millions and millions and millions of dollars for these
Wait. They don't
colleges.
all rake in millions and millions of dollars. And the NCAA just said that, that they're sort of straddling this line between they
Okay.
can't get paid for services, right? They can't get paid to
Right.
play sports, but they can get paid for use of their likeness and things like that. So, I mean, look,
Oh, okay.
college sports is I don't know if it's quite a billion-dollar industry, but it's certainly a multi-million-dollar industry,
For
right?
sure.
And this is first of its kind. And Dartmouth is, of course, appealing. And here's Dartmouth's response, which you also have to love, right? A spokesman
Mm.
for Dartmouth said that the university has immediately filed an objection. For Ivy League students who are varsity athletes, academics are of primary importance, and athletic pursuit is part of the educational experience. Clarifying these students as employees simply because they play basketball is unprecedented, as it is inaccurate. Oh, it does say it is a multi-billion-dollar industry, college
Oh,
sports, maybe
yeah.
not
Oh,
basketball,
yeah.
but
I'm sure for all of them combined. So again, what's their list of demands? What are they asking for?
we haven't gotten that far yet. I
Oh,
just
okay.
thought, I mean, the ivory tower ness of all of this, right? So you've got, these
Yeah.
coddled students, right?
Yep.
It's bad enough that you have woke spaces, I'm sorry, safe spaces on a woke university,
That's
right?
right.
That you don't have to take SATs now to get into, but
Uh-huh.
now woke. We
Oh, I
want to
mean,
unionize.
yeah, that's the natural progression, isn't it? Did
Well,
you
no, there is
hear
some
this week?
pendulum going back the other way, but yeah, I
I
mean,
love it. Well,
I
did you
mean,
hear a bunch of Google employees tried to unionize and they immediately got fired here in Austin,
better.
Texas? Yeah,
No,
there
I
was
didn't hear. Yeah,
some group of Google employees
good.
decided to get with the city of Austin to you try to unionize, and they tried to get the city to stick up for them against big Matt B mean Google, and they got fired literally while they were speaking at the Austin
Ah,
City Council
this
event.
is even better. This reminds me of Ronald Reagan and the flight controllers, during Chris, where
Ooh,
he said you're fired.
no,
Where
what's this?
oh, go back and look up Ronald Reagan. There was a a strike by air traffic controllers. I want to say it was during Christmas, and don't quote me if it was 1980, 81, 82,
Oh my
87, 80,
God.
right? And he basically fired them while they were on strike. And that's really, look, this is Pavlovian, right?
Yeah.
Stimulus response. If you don't like, just fire. Look, by the way, Austin is not Austin the same city that is going policeless at certain hours of the day now because they couldn't
Oh, yeah.
field police
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
officers? And isn't
Yeah.
Austin one of the places that there's spiking crime?
Yeah, Texas wants to kick Austin out of the state. They
Well,
want
like
them
we
to
tried.
secede.
Well, like we tried to have Killington secede from Vermont all those years ago, of which I was the vanguard of. In any event, let's roll into this because
Ah,
yeah, I
I love
have
it.
quite the color. I have quite the. Am I allowed to say the word colored past, or is it a sordid past, or is it a
No,
controversial past?
you're allowed to say your past is colored, just not people. Okay.
Oh,
That's
thank
yeah. You can
thank the
say
Lord.
people of color, but not colored. Yeah, you get it. Because if I say it, then I'll get canceled. So I won't say it.
Political correctness run amok, folks. Let's roll this. Hello and welcome to Of the People. I'm Robert Chernin, and today we're going to talk about democracy under siege. Democracy is under siege. It's a threat to democracy. He's going to be a dictator. Oh my God, he's like Hitler. This is what you hear today. And not to give the president a pass, for those of you who did not see the State of the Union, I watched most of it. And then after, the screaming and yelling and whatever, I did sort of doze at the end of it. But in the State of the Union, the president said that this is a unique time in our history, that, quote, that not since the time of President Lincoln and the Civil War has there been a threat to our freedoms and democracy. So democracy is under siege, but why is it only under siege for half of the country, right? Half of the country. And by the way, what is he talking about? Well, President Trump, of course, MAGA, of course, whites or white Christians or white Christian nationalists or whatever the new sort of boogeyman of the left that they're going to invent, right? So democracy is under siege, but under something psychologically called transference. Why is it only the Democrats who accuse the Republicans? Because if you look at what the Democrats are doing, find me one area, whether it's cancel culture, whether it is woke this, whether it is demonizing, and really, I mean, that's what we're talking about, the 3 Ds: demagogue, demonize, and divide, right? And the other thing, let's be clear, we're really not a democracy. We're really a republic. And the republic is under siege, but it's under siege by those people who are in power and want to cling on to power. So this is really about controlling. When they say democracy under siege, it's about controlling the narrative. It's about controlling access. It's about controlling the media. Because what is it that the conservatives or the deplorables, to quote a word, are threatening, right? Freedom of access, freedom to vote. You want your vote counted. You want accurate vote. We as conservatives, if there is still such a thing, do not control the media. We do not control academia. We do not control the levers of government. We do not control the federal system, if you will, the DOJ or the deep state. Name one thing that is under control of these conservatives or these people who are allegedly threatening democracy and our civil rights. If you can name one, call me. But lest you think that this is only happening in this country, recently in the UK, Lee Anderson is the first MP, member of parliament, who is now in the new Nigel Farage-backed Reform Party. He was kicked out of the Tories, which is the Conservative Party, because the Tories can no longer really be called the Conservative Party. And he expressed views that were clearly racist, according to the woke norms that now the Prime Minister Sunak and the Mayor of London now think is unacceptable. Here's what Lee Anderson said, and pay attention to this one, folks. When he was kicked out and he was asked about it, he said the following: like millions of people in this country, I feel like we are slowly giving our country away. We are giving away our way of life, allowing people to erase our history, giving up our streets to a minority of people who literally hate our way of life. We are allowing people in this country who will never integrate and adopt our values, he says British values. Parliament doesn't seem to understand what many British people want, and frankly, some of them need to get out more. So it's not just the republic or democracy is under siege here, but people are fighting back, whether it's in Argentina, whether it's in Britain, whether it's here. These are all positive signs. Why is this important? It's important that every time you hear the term that democracy is under siege, you want to talk about a dog whistle? That's a dog whistle of the left, that they are afraid of losing power. And, to the white nationalists or whatever, color we are or whatever, we are. And it's important because we are going into an election cycle in November that is going to be about as contentious, and certainly in my lifetime. So when you choose not to participate or you choose not to vote, remember, we tend to get the type of representative government we deserve, unfortunately, as the case may be. Remember what's at stake in this November. Remember your vote matters, and remember that democracy or the republic is under siege. It's just not by us. And that's today's message. Ericka, help me here.
Yes, Robert.
Democracy under siege. Is that sort of when you have, so siege is sort of like what the Romans did to Masada, right? 3,000 years ago, where you basically, you're encircled and you're being attacked from the outside. So aren't we really being attacked from the inside? What am I missing?
Yeah, no. And I really feel like you nailed it, Robert, when you said, supposedly Donald Trump and us crazy right wingers are the ones who are a threat to democracy, quote unquote. So, number one, first of all, yes, I will accept that intended insult. I am a threat to democracy because, like the founding fathers,
you're deplorable. That's what you are.
I'm a deplorable. Okay.
No, you may be the deplorable.
I believe democracy is as much crap as the founding fathers did.
Wait. Can we stop with the term democracy? We have democratic principles, but we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic.
That's what I'm saying. People say we're a democracy. No, we're not. And I don't want to be a democracy. Democracy is mob rule, and we don't need that.
Thank you. Exactly.
We're already, and what you said was 100% right. We're already under mob rule. Okay, the Democrats control the education. They control the government. They control the administrative state. And fill in the blank. Where do you go now? Hollywood, movies, media. Journalists, or the Democratic Party.
Well,
as they may also be called. But you see what I'm saying? Like, they're all Democrats. They're all controlled by the Democrats. How are we the threat? How?
Well, we're the threat because as they feel, even in a cursory fashion, power or influence or the ability to control the message slipping away from them. Look, if you really want democracy, and let's just use the term democracy in the generic sense. I am not saying we're a democracy, folks. We're a constitutional republic.
But colloquially,
and by the way, if you don't know that we're a constitutional republic, that's because you weren't taught civics in school. Right. And I would argue
all they say is democracy.
Right. But I would argue that was intentional. Right. They want to dumb down, the electorate because, don't even start me. OK, don't start me on this, please. But at the end of the day, democracy, so to speak, is about an equal airing of values and opinions and differing points of view, and having that debate in the public square under the aegis, if you will, of free speech.
Yeah.
Tell me where that exists, because all they try to do is it started, and you've heard this rant before, right? Yeah. First, we went from microaggressions. Then we went to safe spaces, right? Where, oh no, you can't do that because you're offending my little, you're hurting my little self, right? And because I'm, right, you're hurting my feelings. So we've and that was on academia, and now we've extended the concept of safe spaces into social justice where you can't say anything. So this guy,
Oh yeah,
the
silent. Oh, but
MP,
here's the thing. Hold on. Remember, Robert, words are violence and silence is violence. Okay, so
so you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
yes, sir. Absolutely. I'm sorry, you just spoke, so you're a racist. If you speak
Well,
words,
and by the way, if we're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, then damn the torpedoes full speed ahead is my response to all of this. But
hallelujah.
but so by the way, the guy, and I want to pull this back up because the guy from the
Oh, what you got?
member of parliament, Lee Anderson, you should look him up folks. Also, if you
Okay.
remember, he's the guy that said the following about the city of London. Because the truth is that the Islamists, the extremists, and the anti-Semites are in charge now. And he was vilified for making what ostensibly is, maybe it is not 100% factually true, but when you look at all the protests in London and the loss of sort of British values, he's entitled to his opinion. How is that Muslim or he's talking about extremists, and we can get into this whole, and by the way, happy Ramadan, because you are in Ramadan. You do know that Ramadan started, I think it was March 10th.
Yes. Yeah,
Right.
that's what. Because we're supposed to be respectful of Muslim
No, look, excuse
holy
me.
days, but
Excuse
nobody
me.
else's days are respected.
We
Robert.
and we should be respectful. I am not arguing that we shouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
I bring up because it is Ramadan. It's the holy month in the Islamic calendar. I don't claim to
Yes.
be an expert, but what this gentleman with member of parliament Anderson is talking about is not sort of traditional Islamic values, right? He's talking about the extreme elements who are preaching against the West and against the infidels, right? And in combination with the in combination with the intolerance and the totalitarianism and the anti-Semitism that you're seeing coming out of the Middle East. And by the way, if you just saw on Twitter, there was a picture of the Grand Imam, I think, during World War II, and they were holding Nazi Germany flags. So you want to see the nexus, folks? That's the nexus. That's what these guys are talking about. So I am not impugning, a great religion of Islam. It's not what I'm doing. Right.
Well, and that's what, this is one of the things people, it's so stupid. And I'm going to say it, and I don't care if I get hate for it. Here's the deal. There's only one religion that I'm aware of that if you mock or make fun of them or their God, that they will come after you and try to physically hurt you. They think that you should be killed for that. The extremists, okay? And yes, there are orthodox extremists, and then there are, reformed Muslims or whatever. But, if you make fun of Jesus, it's not my responsibility to go murder you. If you make fun of Yahweh, it's not my responsibility or your responsibility. And now I'm not Jewish, okay? But you guys, but my religion is based on Judaism.
I mean, it is based on the Old Testament. Right.
Right. Like, I don't remember anywhere in the Bible or the Old Testament where it says that I'm supposed to go physically assault people who don't agree with me. So I'll say it. Not all religions are the same. Coexist is a lie. It's garbage. And we have to be able to tell the truth about that.
Have you read the Quran?
I've read some of it.
Okay,
I'm
so
not
I've
gonna say I've read all of it.
and I don't claim to know everything chapter and verse, but I've read the Old Testament, I've read the New Testament, and I've read what I would call the Super New Testament. And it essentially says, in my opinion, the same thing, which is love God, love man, do unto others. Right. Yeah. There are, however, certain sections and passages that in each that is a little bit different. But look, I want to talk about step back and
okay.
We're talking about wokeism, and we're talking about religion, and we're talking about democracy under siege, right? Did you see what happened in Ireland the other day with the constitutional referendum?
Yes.
They got it. So the woke government puts on the ballot a constitutional referendum to redefine what is a family and to redefine a woman's role, or what the role is of the caretaker in the family. And they got shellacked like 75. Well, one of them, there were two different referendums. One of them was like 68% against, and the other one was 74% against. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, they were redefining the family as a, quote, durable relationship, and they're redefining a mother's role as someone who handles the duties of the home. The first one lost with a 68% vote against, and the second one lost in a 74% vote against.
Wow.
And Varadkar, who is the prime minister, basically, look, I give the guy credit. He took a shellacking and he acknowledged that there was a shellacking. But the real question here, because again, we like to reach outside the U.S. boundaries and let people know what's really going on out there, because
Mm.
we read the news, so you guys don't have to. No, just kidding. But sorry, had to go there. But how disconnected, I mean, when you're driving an
Yeah.
ideological agenda like that, to be so disconnected from your electorate. Now, the one thing that does stick out in all of this, and don't quote me on the numbers, but in the 1960s, well over 90% of Ireland, or the Irish people, identified as Catholic. I want to
Mm.
say it is now down in the low 60s. So you can almost see a correlation between the diminishing of the religious influence in Irish society. I would argue in our society as well. I think the numbers back it up. Well, I can't quote you on it.
Yeah.
And the rise of wokeism, which we have posited all along, and we had Dr. Bruce Abramson on, whose new book is about wokeism is a religion. So the people have moved away from traditional religion. In Ireland's case, it's Catholicism mostly, right?
Yep.
And they are now embracing this new religion of wokeism. And then you get these knucklehead politicians who go, "Oh, let's redefine, let's takes a village to raise a child." That's crap. It takes a 2-parent household, right? It takes a mother and a father, and we can talk about that. But I just stop me. I'm ranting. It's one of those.
I am totally with you, Robert. It is, I think that what we're seeing all across the West is the collapse of our society, right? We have gotten so comfortable, so prosperous. We have gotten so soft that instead of fighting a common enemy, right? So like back in the day, it was, World War II and we had an enemy. Before that, you could even call like the bubonic plague or like any of these physical disasters, right? There was always an enemy or something to fight against. And now that we have nothing to fight against, we're fighting each other. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's Ireland, United States, Australia, everywhere around the world, the Western nations are eating themselves.
Well, first of all, multiculturalism is eating Western nations. So because of the liberal values, and I use liberal with a capital L, meaning an old liberal society, and really by old traditional standards, I am an old school liberal. I am not liberal in the political sense.
Right, exactly.
But in terms of the values and the freedoms and the civil rights and the civic responsibilities that come with being an old school liberal. By the way, if you call me a liberal, I'm going to come through here and get you. But no, just kidding. What's in a name? Oh, Robert said he was a liberal. No, not that kind of liberal.
No, but our Constitution is a liberal Constitution in the real sense of what the actual word liberal means.
Used to mean.
Exactly.
I mean, look, gay used to mean happy. Okay, let's not go there. Okay, so, and I'm not going after the gay community.
Used to represent Jesus. So we've gone way far off of the rails with this stuff. Right. And I think you're right. It's socialism. When we see like the encroachment of socialism and this, which like is basically just another version of this wokeism.
Actually, it's the other way around. Wokeism is just another iteration of socialism, which, by the way, is really just a sort of watered down version of communism. And I know, here we go. People's eyes are going to roll back in their head going, "Oh, he's going down that road again." But folks, if you don't know your history, you're condemned to repeat it. It's that simple. But I want to come back to, you said that the West is being divided. It starts with multiculturalism, where under these liberal values, we let in everyone, right?
Yes.
And look, every human life has dignity. I'm not arguing against that, but there are cultural norms that if people come into your society or into your country, they're supposed to integrate to become part of the country, as opposed to what we're seeing under multiculturalism, which is this shift of culture based on, what was the expression? I think it was Boumediene. I forget who said demographics or destiny. I don't quote me on that, but the quote is there.
Yeah.
But and so you're seeing that happen. then you're seeing the demise of sort of the traditional Western family structure. Thank you, Black
Yeah.
Lives Matter.
Yep.
And therefore you're now seeing sort of in addition to that, sort of a waning of traditional religious Judeo-Christian, let's call them, values. This is an atrophying of a civilization. It's not without it's not without its precedent, in other cultures if you go back through history, but that's what you're seeing here. But I think, trying to emphasize the positive, I think the pendulum is starting to swing the other way, because you're seeing now people like the MP from England, right?
Yep.
Lee
Lee
Anderson.
Anderson.
You're seeing Malaya in Argentina. Look, people are going to vote safety. People are going to vote family. People are going to vote the economy, and this whole wokeism stuff is just crap. But you were talking about dividing us. That's what the 3Ds are. Demonize your enemy, make them bad people, right? Because then you can hate them, or then you can, you don't have to care what happens to them. So you demonize, or actually you demagogue first, right? And no one was better than my favorite demagogue, which is former President Obama, who was the apostle of demagogues, as far as I'm concerned. And then you demonize your opponents, and then you divide the opponents, because if we're divided from each other, it's much easier to rule. It's much easier to, and by rule, I mean retain power. So demagogue, demonize, and divide. And if you guys don't know, that's what's happened to all of us, because they want us fighting each other.
That's right. That's what everybody here, everybody listening needs to know, the 4th D, and that's defend. Defend our republic, just like the folks at American Center for Education and Knowledge. They are defenders of American freedom, and so should you be.
America came into being based on a shared belief and a common set of values. Unlike other nations that were bound together based on common ancestry, race, or caste, we came into being based on a simple and shared set of ideals. That the power of government is based on the consent of the governed. That life, the freedom to live life on our own terms in our own way, free from government interference, and liberty, our most precious value, and the pursuit of happiness, which means we are free to pursue that which we choose, with the knowledge and courage to know that nothing is guaranteed to us in this life. Those values, America was founded on these basic inalienable rights: freedom to pray to God in our own way, freedom to think and speak freely without fear of punishment or harm, and freedom to gather in our places of worship and in our local taverns, and freedom to defend ourselves, our families, our homes, and our neighbors as we see fit. The American Center for Education and Knowledge is dedicated to protecting American exceptionalism anywhere and everywhere it is threatened. ASIC is a 501c3 and depends on your tax-deductible donations. Please help us continue our fight.
Robert, I love that. I love that commercial. The term, or the idea, American exceptionalism, I think is so important for us to hold on to in these conversations. And that's what we should be aspiring to. That's what MAGA is about to me. That's what a lot of these conversations are about, is the freedom and the opportunity to really just excel to the highest possible heights. So,
and that's really, first of all, I want to get one of those shirts that has the eagle descending on it. That is just cool to me. I want one of those. So before we go on, I know we usually do this at the end of the show, but where can they find us?
Ooh, you guys, you got to find us on all the social medias. So Of the People with Robert Chernin is on every social media platform: Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, wherever you're watching or listening. The best place is really on Rumble or Twitter, because that's where you're going to find our after hours show, where we really get to riff and talk about whatever we want. And, there might be some cussing and some other things that we can't say on the radio.
Me? Talk like a truck driver. But don't forget, folks, we are also, for those of you who want the audio version, we are on iTunes, we're on Google, we're on iHeartRadio, we're on Podbeam, we're on
Yeah, wherever you
Spotify,
get your podcasts.
and don't forget, follow us, rate us 5 stars, or email me, Robert, at
Ooh,
coalition,
yeah.
the number 4 America.com, or
Let's
Ericka.
see. At Ericka at coalition, the number 4 America.com. They're up on your screen if you're watching.
Yeah, and don't forget, it's one word, coalition4america.com. So
Coalition
under the
for
heading
America.
of American exceptionalism,
Mm.
we're going to start a new segment, and we're going to
Ooh.
call this Get Trump. Right?
Is this like Got Milk?
No, this is like Get Shorty. You know the old movie Get Shorty?
Okay. Yeah.
So now this is Get Trump. So every week, and it's going to be up to you to remind me, we're going to do a Get Trump section, because what's the latest this week for getting Trump, right? And I don't know if you saw this in the news, but going back to one of your favorite topics, January 6th, there were a couple things that happened during the testimony, and let's remember the January 6th committee had 7 Democrats and 2 quote unquote Republicans, right? Adam Kinzinger.
So fair and balanced.
Fair and balanced. Well, no, we're not Fox News here. We're not Fox News, right? But 2 of the more inflammatory statements was that because Trump said, I wanted to call out 10,000 National Guard, and the committee said there was no evidence of that. It now turns out, thank you, Molly Hemingway of the Federalist, I want to put a plug in for her, who does great journalistic work regardless of which side of the aisle it comes out. But she found out, because there's a transcript now of, I think his name is Ornato, who was the deputy chief of staff at the White House, testified to the January 6th committee that indeed President Trump did try to get 10,000 National Guard called out to protect and make sure that there was no violence on January 6th.
Wow.
Calls Bowser, Muriel Bowser, the DC mayor, right? They reach out for her, and she says no. There were 364 guards, right? So instead, they put the DOD and a quick hit force on notice. But there's now testimony that was removed that said that yes, indeed, and apparently, so he overheard Chief of Staff Mark Meadows talking to the president about it, and this is consistent with Kash Patel's testimony, which was deemed to be unreliable. So really, the rules apply supposedly to everyone, rules of law and rules of disclosure and rules of honesty and integrity information, except of course if you're under the do anything to get Donald Trump, right? So it's amazing to me that all of this is going on. And then the disinformation in the media, and to segue, there was this interview that everybody saw, I assume, if you were watching, those of you who watch the news. So Congresswoman Nancy Mace, right? North Carolina, I think she's North Carolina, was interviewed on ABC News today with George Stephanopoulos. And he basically corners her, no pun intended, and said, well, how can you support this man? He was convicted of rape, meaning President Trump. Right?
That because she was a SA survivor, how could she support someone accused of SA?
Well, SA is sexual assault, folks. She's a rape survivor. Okay, that's what we're talking about. And she basically,
I'm trying to use YouTube speak, Robert, so we don't get our video shadow banned.
Well, you can bleep me out then. Okay, there are plenty of people listening who'd like to bleep me out entirely anyway. It's okay. I'm not offended. It's a good thing I don't have a delicate male ego. But here's the point. First of all, Donald Trump was not convicted of rape.
That's right.
He was convicted in a civil trial of sexual assault, and then I think defamation of character, right? But these are civil cases. He was not convicted criminally of the act. He was not even convicted of rape even in the civil trial. And yet here you have, and look, Stephanopoulos worked in the Clinton White House. He's as much in the bag of the Democrats
how about
anybody.
Stephanopoulos? Hey, Stephanopoulos, how can you live with yourself knowing that you worked for a man who was credibly accused of rape and sexual assault, and we now know went to Epstein Island like 30 times? These people are so full of crap. Like, oh, well, look at me. I have this moral authority and I'm better than you. And it's like, bruh. No, you're not.
But that's the moral authority under the democracy is under siege, right? Heading.
Yeah.
That's the moral authority that
Yeah.
they're worried about losing. It's not really moral authority. It's just authority. They've ascended to a certain point in society and are certainly raking in the dough,
That's
that
right.
they don't want their money threatened and they don't want their power threatened. Right. And then, still sort of under the Trump, get Trump. Did you see the State of the Union? Did you
Oh,
watch it?
I have okay. Yes.
Yes
Yes.
or no? Excuse me.
Unfortunately,
This was a
yes.
yes or no
I can't
question.
even. I can't even. Yes, I saw it. Yes, I saw
Okay.
it.
So
Bad.
let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Was the president on drugs or what? I mean, that's,
Dude.
I mean, here's my thought process, right? You have this addled old man before the State of the Union. My argument is the reason he was late is they had to wait to let the drugs take effect, right? That's why he was late coming down the aisle. And I have no proof, folks. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Speculation.
But, and people, we've talked about your history and your past, and drug use in your past before you were saved, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you can speak to this from experience, probably more than me.
Oh
but
yeah, absolutely.
Did it not look like that to you? And B,
yes.
Did you see what happened the day after the State of the Union?
This is what people, so whenever you're doing uppers, okay, they don't last that long. There's a reason why it gets expensive and it's a problem and it's a whole thing. Okay.
Right.
So it takes a little bit after you take, and it doesn't matter if it's Adderall, if it's speed, if it's whatever, there's a ramp up period and then you're good for a little while. But if you don't do more, you crash. And you could literally watch the president be, having a good old time. And then you could see him crash in the middle of it. I don't know why they made this speech so long. They should have made it like 30 minutes and he would have been fine probably.
When he really crashed was the next day. He's always in Pennsylvania in Delaware County giving a speech, and he says X, Y, and Z, and he goes, and that's why I'm running for re-election to Congress.
Bro, you don't even know what position you're running for, okay?
I mean, you sit there and listen to some of this stuff, and look, I laugh because it's so obvious as to be it's funny in a very serious kind of way. So the guy doesn't even know what office he's running for. Oh, but
Wild.
it was, and look, let's look at the State of the Union. So all the signs are there, right? There was some slurring.
Yeah.
Oh my coughing,
God, so much slurring.
Because the coffee, the coughing, you get dried out by the drugs. There was loudness, right? And there was this sort of that he was doing. I mean,
yelling,
folks, those are telltale signs. And then you look at the come down, which is the next day, and he goes, that's why I'm running for Congress. Mr. President, the sitting president, you are not. I know you were in Congress and I know you were in the Senate, but you are not running. I mean, actually, maybe that would solve our problem. Maybe he should run for Congress again and let someone else run.
He would fit in with all the other 80-year-olds like, Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi. And no, I really believe that there should be a cutoff point. Like, you should not be allowed to hold office after like 70, or you should have to take a cognitive test. There are plenty of 80-year-olds that I know that are still with it. They're still active. Their brain is still functioning. But I can tell you right now, they are not members of Congress.
Right. No, I get it.
And they're not president.
Right. I get it. So getting back to the let's take this in the social direction, right? Under Get Trump, it's permeating everywhere. Charles Barkley basically came out. Now, Charles Barkley, the former Philadelphia 76er, one of the all-time basketball greats. And he now has a show, I don't know, King Charles, whatever it is, right? Basically came out and said two things. He said, number one, someone who's black, Charles Barkley is black, African American, whatever the politically correct word is I'm supposed to say, came out and said, any black person who is wearing a Trump shirt or Trump mug, I want to punch in the face.
Wow.
Right. And then he dials it back and says, well, I don't really physically mean that I'm going to hurt him, but how could you vote for this guy? But then he flips and says, right. Then he flips and says, but I understand why people are moving away from Biden because the Democrats only come around once every 4 years. And, they come into the inner cities once every 4 years, once it's time to vote, and then you don't see them for another 3.5 or 4 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and that's what I just think it's so funny to me when, again, the same people who are the ones threatening our democracy, right? So we've got these Democrats out there saying
democracy.
the Republicans, all these crazy right wingers, they're a threat to democracy.
No. It's white Christian nationalists, which is, it's those
But
people who believe that their rights come from God. If you believe your rights come from God, according to the other side,
and here's the deal.
Are a domestic terrorist.
Do you see right wingers walk? And I could be wrong, but do you see any famous right wing politicians, or excuse me, musicians or athletes going out there and being like, if you vote for Joe Biden, I'm gonna punch you. I want to punch you in the face, and maybe they are, and I just don't hear it. That's entirely possible, but I'm not hearing our side run out there and be physically threatening to Democrats.
Look, these are the people who are defunding the police, and I think they're being hoisted on their own petard, because now you have all these blue cities who are now saying, oh, we think we really need police. Oh, you mean like those community organizers and those, conciliators that you're sending into the community, into places of domestic dispute or other places, really can't resolve crime and really can't resolve conflict resolution? You mean you can't just sometimes talk through conflict resolution? I'm shocked. Really?
Yeah. And that's, I really don't get
Morons
it. I
and
don't
idiots.
get black. I ask Benjamin all the time, explain black people. I don't get it. I don't get it. You guys aren't getting what you say you want. These Democrat politicians are not making your cities better. They're not getting you out of poverty. They're not giving you better schools. They're not doing. Why are you still voting for that? For 50, 60 years, these people have been telling you that they're for you and they want to, and the Republicans are so bad. But where are you better? Are you better off?
So Charles Barkley says the following. The reason, he goes, they only care about black people every 4 years. The reason I think the Democratic Party and Mr. Biden is losing black votes is they only care about black people every 4 years.
That's right.
So they only care about black people every leap year. Is that it?
That is literally it.
Yeah,
I mean, really.
Look, people need to understand there are 4 pillars of the Democratic Party. And when any of the base gets threatened, that's where they go. So the woman's vote is a pillar of the Democratic Party. The union vote, the black vote, and teachers. And teachers, you can say, are union. That's true, but it's specifically teachers. But so maybe there are 3 pillars really, because you can put teachers under unions. But the women vote, the abortion issue, right? The abortion issue, because and Biden just came out in his speech where he thought he was running for Congress, basically talked about 3 things and 3 things only. He talked about abortion, going to pass, abortion and a federal law on abortion. He talked about the economy and the fact that how terrific his economy is doing. I just filled up my gas tank this morning. I don't think the economy's doing that well. Fabulous. And then he talked about what's the other buzzword? Gun control.
Ugh.
That's it. So you've got 3 pillars and 3 issues, right? I will tell you something. Here are the 3 issues that this election is going to turn on, assuming it is a free and fair election, of which, where's my tinfoil hat? It's going to turn on illegal immigration. It's going to turn on the economy, and it's going to turn on crime. Those, mark my words, those 3 issues are the 3 issues upon which this election will turn. Immigration or illegal immigration, right? The economy. It's the economy, stupid. Thank you. I think it was James Carville who said that during the Clinton years. And it's going to turn on crime, safety, crime. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, this is what the Democrats always, I do not understand what their electoral game plan is.
Sure you do.
Because it doesn't matter. Well, this is the thing. It doesn't matter if you win the popular vote. You have to win the electoral college. And the majority of Americans Right. So the electoral, every state essentially gets a vote on who is the president. Not each person, but each state
Right.
collectively who is going to be president. And immigration is affecting everyone, right, left, and center. And so the Democrats keep trying to pretend like the things that matter are whether or not you can kill your unborn baby, whether or not you are allowed to defend yourself against somebody trying to hurt you. Like, and their position is you shouldn't get to defend yourself. At the same time, we're seeing rising crime, illegal immigration, 7.2 million illegal immigrants that we know about, which is more people than 36 separate states in this nation. These people are morons. They're absolute morons. They are running all the way to the left
They're
to
not
appease their most radical base.
But they're not morons. This is by intent. This is about power. First of all,
do they want
right,
to lose? But do they
right.
want to? They can't want to lose the election. I mean, they cannot believe that these are actually winning issues. Can they? I mean, they can't.
I guess if you control the levers of power, you're more apt to say the issues don't matter because what was Stalin's quote? Who votes doesn't matter, but who counts the votes. And again, that's that whole conspiracy theorist thing. But interesting that you bring this up, right? Because you're talking about, and let's put a fact out there that most people don't know.
Yeah.
We conduct a census every 10 years, which means we count people in the country. However, the census counts, and that's how, by the way, the electoral college is allocated and how many representatives and congressmen and women that people get in a given state.
That's right.
But the census counts both legal and illegal immigrants as part of the state. So let's just make this up and say
doesn't differentiate. That's what's important. It does not differentiate if you're illegal or legal, because remember last time they decided you're not allowed to ask that question.
That was during the Trump years. That's right.
Yep.
So folks, the census, even though technically, legally, only citizens are allowed to vote, the way that representation is apportioned counts everyone, illegal or otherwise. So if I'm playing the long game, which the Democrats clearly are doing, then I want all this illegal immigration because I know it's going to get counted in the census, right? And therefore, it's going to give more electoral power to states that have larger illegal immigration or have, let's call a spade here. We're talking about cities, right? You're talking about where illegal immigrants are going to congregate, and they're going to congregate in the cities, and without the blue cities, the Democrats, based on counties, based on geography, the Democrats get their rear ends handed to them.
That's
in terms of those stats. It is only the urban centers that cause the Democrats to have even a remote chance to win, assuming people are counting the votes correctly, right?
That's right.
Folks, the census counts everyone, and that determines how many congressmen in the state, and that determines power in Congress. You starting to see the cycle here?
Yep. That's what here. Forgive me. Remind me.
I won't forgive you. I won't forgive you. I don't know what you did, but you're not forgiven.
Who decides what the census questions are? Like, who facilitates the census? Is it the administrative branch of the government?
I think it's the Bureau of Statistics, but don't quote me on that. So this is where, by the way, we are Benjamin-less today, folks. This is where Lord Benjamin always helps, because when we're having these questions, he's like typing stuff on the background, and we get all this chat, and he makes us sound so much smarter. I mean, by the way, if we don't sound smart, if Ericka and I do not sound smart on this show, it's because we are Benjamin-less today.
Yep, it's Ben's fault.
Right? I just want you to know, if we don't sound smart, that's why. But let's go back to that illegal immigration versus the census. I don't know who comes up with the census. I assume it would be either the Bureau of Statistics or U.S. Census Bureau or whatever.
Yeah, U.S. Census Bureau, U.S. Commerce.
There was a bill.
U.S. Department of Commerce.
That could be. I mean,
it's like overseeing.
So I may be omnipotent. I'm just not omniscient. That's all. So. Did I tell you I am Oz? No, I'm not. So there was a bill the Senate put forward, the Republicans put forward a bill that would make it illegal to count illegal immigrants as part of the census. and they came for a vote. Not a single Democrat. Here's where you can tell whether there's the politics of it. Not a single Democrat voted in the Senate in support of a bill that would not count illegal immigrants as part of the census data. What does that
And
tell you?
dude, this is they call us conspiracy theories when we talk about the great replacement theory and whatever. But you guys are literally so you're not so the great replacement theory is a tinfoil hat, whatever. But y'all are literally counting illegal immigrants so that you can get more representation. So you set up sanctuary
I
cities,
think it's smart as
sanctuary
hell.
states. Yeah, I mean, this is again, you guys call us stupid and you say we're conspiracy theories and you're doing this nonsense in public. We can see you.
Yeah, but wait a minute. When you do things like this in public and no one responds, you're just going to keep doing it. I mean,
Do it.
no one.
Yes.
So here's the problem, right? I mean, again, it comes back to one of my favorite scenes from a movie, which is Network, right? Albert Finney sticks his head out the window and says, "I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore." Until the American public gets to that point, and I'm sure hoping they get to that point by November, so that the
Ooh.
margin of victory is so far outside, any ability to, sort of cheat, rob, or steal, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I'm skeptical, but I mean, until you get to that point, when they are when people go into stores and they are looting stores in front of
Yeah.
the people who work there, in
That's
front
right.
of the ownership, and they have no regard because there are no consequences, and that's the
That's
key.
right.
If you commit a crime and there are no consequences, you're just going to continue to commit crime, right? There
Yeah.
has
And
to be
escalate.
consequences, and it's the same thing with partisan politics. When you are so partisan that you don't put the needs of America first, but you put the needs of your party first, or your need to stay in power first, and if there are no consequences, you're just going to continue to do it. Which,
Oh
by the
my
way,
gosh.
not only did they have that bill put forward, but the other thing that people don't understand is, folks, I want you to look up Executive Order 14019. That was signed in 2021 by, at the time, fairly innocuous, signed by President Biden. And basically what it allows is it allows the Department of Justice, who's supposed to be going after people who break the law, and it
Mhm.
allows them to become sort of a civil rights voting enforcement agency. And they're now trying to get illegal immigrants to vote and people in prison who, in most states, and let's remember, voting rights is state, not federal, people in prison to register to vote. Now, again, there's a little more to it than that, and I am really glossing over some of the things in the Executive Order 14019. The Secretary of State, or it was the Attorney General of Mississippi, has wrote a letter of protest. I think it'll go nowhere. But these are all the little things, Ericka, that this administration is doing to, under the heading of, where did we start today? Democracy under siege, racism, anti-voting rights, under the heading of expanding voting rights, because that's a nice, because, by the way, these are really nice banal platitudes. Who
Yeah.
would not be against expanding voting rights?
It sounds nice. It sounds
Right?
nice until you realize that they're trying to federalize it and take rights away from the states and make sure that we won't ever have a free and fair election again because illegal
Right.
immigrants are going to be voting.
Right. So, again, it's one of those things where they put these banal, just lovely sounding things. Oh, of course we're for voting rights. A million years ago, do my homage to Joe Cilio, commissioner who was on there. I used to work selling, way before I got into this, right? I
Yeah.
used to work selling pots and pans and dishes door to door. How's that for a piece of my past?
I love it.
Yeah, well, door to door salesman. Thank you. Knock knock. And we used to go in and we were selling china and crystal and flatware and those things. And we would always sit with a mother and a daughter, and we would say to the mother, well, of course, don't you want your daughter to start out better than you did? I mean, what mother in their, in clear conscience could say, no, I don't want my daughter to start out better than I did. I mean, that just doesn't happen. It's the same thing when I hear these platitudes coming out of the government about the voter, what do they call it? Voter reform, or expanding voter access. Of course don't you want everyone to be able to vote? Of course we do, but they have to be legal to vote.
Yeah.
And what they're
Well,
trying to do, whether it's voter ID, being against voter ID, which clearly doesn't hamper voting, whether it's mailing ballots, whether it's, these people who ballot harvest. I mean, they're trying to use every loophole to make sure that, including people who are dead
yeah.
on the voting rolls, to vote.
Well, and that's, you know what? It just like socialism, it all sounds good until you put it into practice, and then you
Right.
find out it's all a big lie. So let's hear more about that.
Socialism. The goal of socialism is communism. The world is quite familiar with socialism and the horrors socialism has brought with it. It wasn't that long ago. Actually, it's still with us. Socialism creeps into government slowly until it's too late. Socialism, the big lie. Yes, it could happen anywhere. This educational video was brought to you by the American Center for Education and Knowledge and paid for by people like you who care about the future of our democracy. Please help us continue our work educating the American public and consider supporting ASIC by making a tax-deductible donation at asicfund.org. Hi, I'm Robert Chernin.
And I'm Ericka Redic.
And we are Of the People. Join us on WUVR 1490 on your AM dial. That's Thursdays 9 a.m., Saturdays 3 p.m., and
WNTK 99.7 FM.
And if you can't find either of those, you can find us on Rumble.
That's right.
Listen in.
All right.
Absolutely. Who is that handsome guy?
He's, he's this guy I met one time.
Uh-oh.
He knows a thing or two about politics. I heard he might run for office someday.
Yeah, that would be right after you run again.
Oh, Robert, did I tell you somebody reached out to me about it? If I was going to run for Congress again this year in Vermont, I was like, bruh.
Yeah,
It is March.
Small problem is that you don't live in Vermont any longer.
Well, yeah, it's also bruh,
but that
I
shouldn't
should have
stop
started
you.
that a year ago. Hey, why not? I can move back. They don't care about things like rules in Vermont.
Well, you'd have to go kiss Bernie's ring.
Well, for those of you listening, I put or watching on chat, I did put the executive order that Robert was just talking about. I put a link in the chat, so go check it out, guys.
By the way, speaking of the ultimate hypocrites, did you see in the State of the Union? So Bernie Sanders is wearing a mask, except the shots beforehand, he doesn't have a mask on and he's talking to everybody. And then the minute the State of the Union starts and the camera starts to pan, he puts the freaking mask on.
Bruh, what are you doing? It's 5 years later at this point. Why are you still wearing a mask?
You're missing the point. You want to talk about virtue signaling? You want to talk about religious garb? I mean,
yeah, that dude is accustomed to lying to Vermonters and Americans.
Last thing we want to talk about is we do have to talk about the China connection, because you were talking about socialism, you're talking about the things happening here.
Yep.
Again, in the news, they just discovered at the ports,
wild, y'all.
Right, that so first of all, let's back up and set the stage here. When you look at all the ports of entry in this country that are bringing in cargo, the cranes that move the cargo from the ships to the docks, 80% of those folks come from China. And we can talk about this whole made in China thing in a second. They just discovered listening devices and cellular modems on a bunch of these. I forget how many of them, but a large number of them at the major ports, right? So along with TikTok, along with buying land around military bases, you now find that China is putting cellular modems into cranes, and we get 80% of our cranes from China.
That is wild. That is outrageous, Robert.
But we're the conspiracy theorists here, right? So China, and I want folks to look this up. I want you to type in the following and look, who owns Lenovo? You're going to find out it's China.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to type in the internet, who owns Smithfield Foods, which is the largest pork producer in the country. I want you to type in who owns GE Appliances, and that's higher.
GE?
GE Appliances is
GE
owned
was
by Hyatt.
American, wasn't it?
Darling, look it up. I
Oh,
don't want any of you to take my word for it. And there's a list that goes on and on with all of this. So again, we have always maintained that China is at war with us. We're just not at war with them. And we just look, lights on, nobody's home. You know, we have China
wow.
Joe Biden or Sleepy Joe or whatever, you know, FJB, whatever you want to, you know, say about the president, but clearly asleep at the switch, while China continues to, through soft and hard power, infiltrate various aspects of the country and the economy.
Yeah.
I believe, and don't quote me on the number, I want to say somewhere upwards, we get 90% of our antibiotics from China.
Yeah.
We
And
get,
Robert,
I mean,
do you remember, like, it was 10 or 15 years ago, I believe it was North Carolina or South Carolina, like entire neighborhoods had to be torn down because the building materials received were from China and they were toxic. Okay, so didn't we do a story not that long ago about a bunch of toys that were toxic and
Right.
whatever? So these people, the China, let me rephrase that. I want to be very specific.
not the Chinese people, the
Chinese
Chinese
government,
Communist
that's
Party,
right.
the
The
Chinese
Chinese
government,
Communist Party,
not the
the
people.
Chinese
Be
government
very clear.
is trying to kill American citizens between allowing toxic,
Fentanyl.
poisoned
Fentanyl.
materials to come here, the fentanyl being produced right where the precursors are being shipped over to Mexico and then made in Mexico and then ported along our southern border along with the illegal immigrants and the human trafficking. I mean, how many, again, like you said, the spy balloons, how many more things does the Chinese government have to do before the American government decides that these people are that this government is a real threat?
Well, again, there are no consequences to China to do these things. And let's be clear, folks. We allow the Chinese government through, you know, whether directly or indirectly, to buy U.S. companies. The American business cannot buy in China. There's no reciprocation. You have to buy through a multinational firm. So there's not even
That's right.
reciprocity, right?
Yeah.
Another company I want you to look up is CNANO, CNANO. This is a company in Missouri that is the American branch of a company owned by the Chinese government, which really indirectly owned. But again, what people don't seem to understand is there is a nexus between the Chinese Communist Party and Chinese organized crime and Chinese business. They are not really separate entities, right? Much like you can argue with Russia, it's the same thing. But this company, which produces carbon nanotechnology, and you should look up what carbon nanotechnology is used for, right? And there basically is 70 miles from a key Air Force base in Missouri, right? So, and again, is any single thing worth being up in arms over? No, but you've got to take a look at all of this and what we call the Chinese connection, whether it's the supply chain issue, which we experienced during COVID, right? If they control 90 some odd % of antibiotics, tetracycline, penicillin, right? You know, used for anthrax and other things. It's a threat assessment, right? What's the threat assessment and why aren't we reacting to that? And let me add one more thing. One more thing to this. Yeah. And then you go into the elements into pharmaceuticals that control, I want to say 86% of it that we get here. So, and again, we can look at media, we can look at finance, we can look at education. Right now, we're just talking about military or spy, spy technology and stealing information. What's the expression, Ericka? Information is power.
That's
They're
right.
just glomming all this information. When will they use it? When they choose to. I don't know when that is.
What do you think about Trump's proposal to have tariffs up to 60% on Chinese goods? What do you think about all that talk?
I think it's pretty simple. I think there needs to be a Buy American campaign and or not buy from China campaign. And the reason is twofold, right? I mean, the reason is twofold. Number one, let's look at our trade deficit. And as you might expect, I have the numbers.
Yeah.
So the numbers are as follows. Let me see if we can find this. So in 2022, the United States exported $196 billion and we imported $563 billion. It's a 3-to-1 ratio. So the trade deficit with China is 368 billion. So there's two reasons to buy American. One is safety and security, but the other is you want to build American manufacturing back and you want to support American businesses. Why is that so controversial? Right? China is threatening us both with soft and hard power. We're not allowed to buy companies there. They can buy companies here. They're buying real estate around military bases. Duh. They have these secret police stations to keep their citizens in check. Duh. Right? And then what? There are TikTok, Lenovo, GoPro, right? All owned by
the
either
cranes. I mean, it just goes on and on.
They're slipping modems into cranes. Gee, I wonder why. And don't forget, the modems all these cranes are controlled by remote control. So if there is ever an open conflict, you don't think that that there's vulnerabilities are going to be activated, used, whatever terminology. Look, I'm not crying that the sky is, oh my God, the sky is falling. The sky is falling. But I think somebody needs to wake up and just say, look, this is a threat. How do we handle this? And Buy American serves two very good positive purposes. And I'll tell you one other thing. Much like America came together during World War II with a common enemy, I think Americans would be willing to pay more in a Buy American campaign for both the reasons we laid out. I don't mind spending more if I am A, protecting my country, and B, supporting local American businesses.
Yeah.
What am I missing?
Speaking of supporting, no, you're not missing anything except for our deadline. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our show.
Oh,
but
no.
Stay with us.
I have so much more to say.
I know. Stay with us if you're on Rumble or Twitter, because you're going to hear Robert Unfiltered talk about China and what this nonsense is. And we're so excited. We've got a darker perspective. Mr. Lord Redic, he is here with us for the after hours.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yes. I know. He's at South by Southwest, y'all, selling movies, being a wheeler and dealer. And so he's going to join us for the after hours. Hang on with me. Again, if you are listening, wherever you're listening, like, share, subscribe, give us an excellent review. And
look, at least like Ericka, guys and girls. You don't have to like me, but at least like Ericka. We like her. Get rid of the ball guy.
And on that note, we're gonna say suck it to Facebook. Wait, hold on. Let me. Okay, this is my first time doing it by myself, you guys. Benjamin, wait, Lord Redic.
No training wheels.
No training wheels. Benjamin, you're added to the stage, so don't say anything embarrassing.
Well, I was kind of hoping he would say.
I definitely try.
Definitely say something embarrassing. How
say
come
something
I can't?
embarrassing?
Oh, there we go. Remove. I just remove it from the feed, right, babe? I'm not deleting it. I'm just
don't delete it. Just remove.
YouTube, you are now
All right.
removed.
So how is